What's up, guys? Still jamming away on this Evo Sporty, so lots of work to do still, but the hard stuff's done. The motor's back in, starter's in, oil lines are run. Ooh, I don't like that. I'm gonna have to flip those. Run the hot lead to the starter over this. I got the trigger wire hooked up to the starter. All of the wiring on this is not done well. We're just trying to get it running, riding, so we can get some break-in miles, figure out what he wants to move, if he wants to do foot pegs or different controls and things. This was supposed to be a break-in bike over the summer and then a rebuild this winter. Now it's turning into a, we'll get it done in the fall, right before winter. Hopefully you can get some break-in miles on this and go from there. Fresh cylinders, has a ton of compression when I crank it over. I haven't hit it with a key yet, but now we're kind of down to the tedious little bits. So I think I'm going to start with the intake stuff and then the motor mount on the other side. So I'll get the intake in first, then we'll do the upper motor mount on the other side. The rest of these motor mounts are done. Then we'll pull the oil filter. I'd like to fill this up with some oil and at least let it gravity fill the lines for however long it takes before we go to fire this thing up. So I'll try and get some of this stuff locked down. Gas tank's over at the shop, so that's not going on anytime soon. Worst case, we'll fire it off the little bottle. Primary still got to go back together. Shortening list, but a very long list still. So let me get jamming on this. Yeah, we'll start with the intake and then do the motor mount. Set you guys up on the tripod. And the intakes for these, you got 2 bolts, 2 studs. Don't lose your washers like I just did. Of course, that's going to fall right in between the cylinders where I can't reach it. It's the closest thing I have. So I'll take these bolts out first, then we'll drop the intake on here. Almost dropped that into the head. That would have been a bad day. All right, so the Evo intakes, you got studs on the back, and they're just O-ringed, so no gaskets, no shimming, no weird pound the cylinders or clock the heads or anything like that. I'll just drop this guy in here. They're slotted, so they will catch on the backside. Just gets a little tight in here. Trying to get these all seated. Come on. Catch. We'll go around to the backside here and get these studs locked down. The rear's on, or the front. Backside's on. There's both of those. I'm doing the intake first because once you put this motor mount on, you really kind of lose a lot of your access to these parts. I don't usually like the ball heads, but they do help to get this thing started. Especially on these intakes, there's not really a lot of room here. Go in where you're supposed to. Just wanted to make sure we're actually engaging there. I don't need to strip out some heads and ruin my day, but we are. Ball head for the win. So those are good. Now we'll go to the other side and just snug down these 1/2 inchers. Quarter turn at a time on these. Not enough room for a ratcheting, so kind of do the best you can. There we go. So the intake's on. That's fine there. Now we'll do the upper motor mount and bring her around onto the other side. When we are looking at the upper, I also have the ignition integrated into here, so all of my wires and stuff are hooked up. Pull these out first. There's probably supposed to be some washers on there or something too, but whatever. We can do that later. Now, on the upper plate, yank this apart real quick. You have the upper motor mount that's going to line up to that frame. And then on these, get 1 bolt, couple threads in just to hold it in place, so I'm not fighting it falling on me. Upper plate's gonna sit here. This goes on the back side in between the frame, like so. And then our bolts drive into this twofer section. So we'll get these started on the double bracket first. Like so. I grab some 3/8 washers. Drop some washers on here. I'm just gonna line everything up first. And if I remember correctly from when we had this together, it did lay out really well on here. It wasn't as much motor shimming as I would typically do on like a iron head or shovel. Those ones tend to be a little more critical. Now, we'll put these down into the motor first. Like so. Then we'll switch over to our 9/16 socket that hopefully I have out here somewhere. Maybe I put my tools away when I cleaned up a minute ago. I did. And it's a doubler up top, so. Really loud. But there we have it. Now our upper motor mount's done. Ignition is in and ready to go. I've got most of the wiring laid out. I think we used one color for everything on a chopper wire job. But I think I got most of it kind of oriented and clocked the way it's supposed to be. These are a little dangly. I think I just had a bunch of stuff zip tied on the frame rails, and then we'll come down here and chase the rest of it. But we got the circuit breaker installed. This will drop into the battery tray, something kind of like that. We'll hook up the hot sides, and hopefully we should be able to see if this is all oriented the right way. I don't know what I have going on down here. Got a hydraulic pressure switch down below. That's kind of goofy. I don't know what we're going to do about that. I'll have to make a little bracket or something for these. I don't mind this staying right there like that, but a little jinky. It's fine. If anybody asks, I was drinking. Probably was. So now we'll lay the coil out, I guess. Headlight stuff can just sit up there. We're going to be a ways out on that. But now we're down to pretty much the primary and timing, I think. So here's all the clutch and primary stuff. Let's start with that first. And you know what? I might actually pour some oil in here. Let this thing start gravity feeding through the lines, get that pump kind of lubricated, since we did have all of that apart. Yeah, I'll top this off with oil, at least get a quart in there. So let me find a funnel, we'll fill that up, and then we'll start on the primary. I got 60 weight on the shelf, so that's what we're gonna use. It's probably a little much for an Evo, but it's what I got. So on the filter, let's see what we're looking at here. I know I just poured a quart in. No. Too small. I think these are the filters for my chopper, maybe. So we'll have to definitely swap this out. Oh, shit. Making a big old mess all over my nice tools. Keeping myself on my toes here. So I'll leave that oil filter open. My electric ratchet got some nice lubrication and cleanup. But this motor did grenade itself, so we got a lot to clean up on this oil filter housing. So we'll let this just kind of drip out here right on the shop rags. I'll leave that out. Oil should not come all the way up to the filter, even though I'm filling the back side of this. So I think we'll be all right there for now. I think this will take a couple quarts. So let me throw one more quart in, and we'll be back when I get that done, and we'll move on to the primary. So here's where we're at on the Evo Sporty. Check, check. Let me double check that the mic's working, because they like to cut out on me and I forget, especially when I'm out here all day. Oil is filled now, so we got 2 quarts in there. I'm gonna do one more, but that should be fine. I left the oil filters at the shop, so I didn't have a chance to do that. We gotta hook up our timing, carb, pipes, chain. Brake stuff is just kind of resting on here, just when I was running all the oil lines. trying to clear all that up, so that's fine. Battery's roughly hooked up. We have a working tail light. I must have stolen the headlight from this for something else, so we can't test that part yet, but that's all hardwired. It should plug right in and work fine. I do have a stainless brake line up here now, so we can actually hook up the front brakes. Calipers in, pads are good. I just got to bleed it. So maybe we'll address that in a little while. The coil is 1 bolt up here. And primary. So I don't know if I'm going to try and fire this today. I think that's a little over ambitious. I could. We're not too far off, but I think what I'm going to actually do is start doing all the primary stuff and get rid of one more box, get all of this stuff hooked back up, and go from there. On the primary, I don't really know exactly what I'm doing because this is all new. I did take everything apart, so I got a bin of parts. Timing advanced stuff I'll set over here because we'll use that later. Timer plug, maybe we can just drop this in. Leave that up there for now. Here's our clutch stuff. Just kind of pulling parts out of the bin here one by one. Compensator, clutch, go there. I think these are the primary bolts, which I'll throw right back in the actual primary. So I have 2 bins right now. One over here behind me. You can see the corner of it. That's where I put all the oily stuff. Here's all the primary bolts. We'll throw those in the next bin over. That is all of the compensator stuff. Now, the stator is magnetized, so there are lots of parts just kind of stuck in here. Let's grab all of these. Ooh, that looks a little chewed up. That's probably not a good thing. I'm gonna need that washer that I just dropped. Drop these bolts here. Other miscellaneous crap, and bolt. So this is the outside. We'll drop that right back in so I don't forget it. And a chunk of washer. You probably don't want that in the inside of the motor. Okay, so starter gear, primary, compensator. Grab a rag and give this one quick little wipe down. Good enough. That's the outer spacer. Okay, so our inner sleeve goes over the shaft here, like so. And then let me grab the compensator. Man, I need some rags. Everything in here is not the cleanest. Now, we'll just wipe down the stator, the magnetic stator area real quick. And the compensator and the clutch basket will go on together as one. So make sure you have your spacer, obviously, which we kind of did. Give this a quick little wipe down here one more time. Then we'll grab our compensator, wipe some crap off of it. Good enough for me. And we'll line all of this up on the primary chain. Here's kind of what we're looking at. So we'll get the clutch basket started first. Get her kind of on. We're gonna walk these in together. So that's on the splines now. Oh, that went too far. You don't want to go too far. The magnet will try and pull it in. So we got to make sure we get our chain up and over here. Now we can do a little, damn it. Okay, now we're halfway on, so now we'll slide this in. Rotate this around. And try and get the compensator to engage on the splines. Teeth are fighting me a little bit here, but that should be close enough. This is our spacer that fell out when I was picking all this stuff up, so we'll wipe that off. Drop this guy back in. And there we have it. It's done, right? Here's the big bolt nut for the primary, or the compensator. So we'll get this started on here. Not a bad idea to throw some Loctite on there too. And then the clutch basket itself is actually held together with a snap ring. So we'll get something in here and drive this home. Somehow. I need something on the sleeve here. Oh, no, we're about there. So it's just a snap ring on the clutch. I'm gonna need my tools and you guys are in my way. So here's the snap ring for the clutch. This will hook down with an impact. So let me grab some tools and get reset up here since you're blocking my toolbox. Start with the front compensator sprocket and crank that down. It is a pretty high torque spec. Not a bad idea to throw some Loctite in here too. We're gonna call that good. A lot of torque with the electric impact. Then on the clutch, so obviously this is gonna be super loose until you get the actual primary hooked back up. But I think that should do. That'll pull itself in. And then for the clutch retainer, I gotta grab my snap ring pliers. Hopefully these are still set up the right way. If you don't have these, buy a kit on Amazon. Cheapo ones are okay. They're not the nicest in the world, but they will work. We are seated on this side of the snap ring. Let me grab a flathead and kind of drive this around. See how much more we gotta go. This side seated in the groove, seated in the groove. I think we're in. Yeah, we're definitely in the grooves here. So that'll lock our clutch basket in. Spinning the sprocket on the other side, but that's all right. So our snap ring is back in now. Fully seated all the way around. Just double checking to make sure, but we're in good shape there. So now we can move on to starting to put our clutch back together. And I have a new tool for this that I haven't used yet, so hopefully that works all right. Let's start laying out our clutch. Here's our outer plate, which is gonna be the last thing we're gonna do. Let's start with the discs and things. We're gonna go fiber, metal, fiber, metal, fiber, all the way through. Cue up the time lapse. Our clutches are now installed. Here is the outer clutch plate, which is going to drop in here like so. Now, here's the crappy part where it does get a little more difficult. We have a diaphragm plate, we have a little spacer, a washer, and a snap ring. If you go to put this all back together, ooh, make sure that that stays on there. If you go to put this all back together like this, it'll go right in. No resistance, no issues whatsoever. However, that's not what you want. This is a spring plate, so this is bowed out. We need to have this facing outward, which is great because it's a huge pain in the ass to get back in. So then we're gonna do the diaphragm facing outward, then the washer. Come on. Get out of the groove. Diaphragm plate backwards, so we're compressing that in. Then our angled little plate, then the washer, which will sit here like so. And then we have this big snap ring that we need to get into the grooves. However, it's not gonna do that until we compress it. So let me grab a brand new tool that I just got and haven't used. Hopefully this works, and if not, I will complain about it on the internet. Okay, what I got here is a Motion Pro clutch compressor tool, 08137, 08-137. And this isn't gonna work again. Maybe it will. No, it won't. We'll see. This might be the same issue that I had last time, where trying to get this back together doesn't actually work because I can't seem to find the right tools for this clutch. I don't know if they changed them over the years, but this will thread on here. Okay, you guys overheated. Here's where we're at. We got the clutch plates and the diaphragms and all of this kind of lined up and ready to go. However, that fancy tool that I just bought, not gonna work. So this is kind of dangling in there. Here is the Motion Pro tool. We're good on this part. Threads on. This will crank down. However, this is not the one I need for this model. I ordered the correct one. I think there's an adapter that I can actually use with this tool, hopefully. I have a bunch of PVC spacers at the shop for this too. Maybe they're here, actually. So I can do something like this and try and rig it up and make something work. I'd really like to not have to do that again, but I'll mess with this for a minute. I'm not gonna do this on camera unless it works, and then I'll show you what it did, but I might lose patience trying to mess around with this and put this on pause for a bit. Let me try this. If I can get it, we'll come back and keep going. If not, this is on pause for a day or two while we're waiting on parts. That was a pain in the ass, so I didn't have the camera on. I was frustrated trying to figure all this out. Here is the Motion Pro tool. Well, most of it. But this threads right on to the pushrod shaft. Fine. That works. This threads on, and then if you have a later model and post 1990s, this threads on, this will slide over, you get your brass bushing, goes down, then your handle. This will compress the clutch basket, the diaphragms on the outside. On these weird late 80s to 90, 91, from my understanding, you need to compress this inner ring, which is a huge pain in the ass. This is how I did it last time. Had a little spacer thing, kind of used the tool with that. For whatever reason, this one's a little too long and I didn't want to try trimming this down. So I took this, a smaller, unnotched one. Now, threaded the section on there, on the shaft. Let me show you exactly what I did real quick, and this will wrap up this video because now I'm exhausted. That was too much brain power for me. So you got one snap ring that goes on the outer, you got your diaphragm kicked out, little angled steel plate, and then the washer.